The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, a supernatural thriller by Sri Lankan author Shehan Karunatilaka, has been awarded the 2022 Booker Prize for Fiction. The novel captures the story of a photographer during the Sri Lankan Civil War who wakes up as a ghost and tries to solve the mystery of his own death. Published in January 2022, the book is considered a top-notch satire set amidst the mayhem of the Sri Lankan Civil War. Karunatilaka is now the second Sri Lankan author to win the coveted prize, and he joins me live from London. Congratulations, Mr. Karunatilaka, for this prestigious award. Tell us, how much of Mali Almeida is there in Shehan Karunatilaka today? The starting point of Seven Moons is the end of the civil war in 2009, and you won the Bookers this year when Sri Lanka has seen large-scale unrest and protests.
Yeah, so I don't know if there is much of Mali Almeida in me or me in him, because he was very much an activist going into these dangerous parts in 1989 when the story said dangerous parts of the country, and reporting what he found. I'm very much a pacifist. I kind of sit and observe the chaos from a very safe distance, and then I write things about it. So I don't know if there's any comparison, but also I don't know if there's a comparison between 2002 and 1989. In the sense that things are. It's been a tough year. There's been chaos and turmoil and unrest, but I don't think we are anywhere near the horrors of 1989, where you would see dead bodies in tires burning on the sides of the road. It was a regular feature, or the terrors of 1983, where mobs were pulling people out of cars and setting fire to them. I hope we never ever get back to that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book. So I think things are harsh now. They've stabilized, but the worst is certainly not over. The struggle is certainly not over. But I don't think we're that bad. So I think that's all. That comparison also, it's not accurate. It's, we haven't come to those dark days again yet.
But there's black humor in your book, and it unpacks the horrors of war to remarkable individuals and universal ends. I've been reading your interviews that you have given soon after winning the Bookers, and you have spoken about that call that you received while you and your wife were in the middle of the entire chaos, the economic chaos that your country is seeing. Tell us about it. Who made that call, and where exactly were you and your wife?
Well, yeah, it has been a turbulent, dramatic few months, and we were there in July 9th when this great protest ended up in the populace storming the presidential palace and jumping in his pool, and then the president fleeing. And this is a surreal time. We were there, but the aftermath, of course, was that after this, there were these huge petrol shortages. So I was sort of thinking, forget about it. I'm not standing in a queue. Let's just switch to bikes and walking. But yeah, my wife was very determined, and so she was in a petrol queue over 4 days. And I was walking the kids to school, and then I got this I got a call from very ecstatic publishers, my lovely publishers, Natanya Jans and Mark Ellingham. They were very excited. So yeah, it was strange, because at the end of that day, my wife got a full tank of petrol, and a friend came over and said, "Wow, congratulations, you got a full tank of petrol. By the way, well done on the Booker Prize long list." And so that was the times that we lived in then. And yeah, things have stabilized, but like I say, the worst is not over. But yeah, since then it's been a surreal ride, because you don't expect a book about Sri Lanka's troubles in the 80s to travel so far. You think it got published in India, but I didn't expect it to be published or received in a big way in the UK, but a Booker Prize will do that for you. So yeah, now it's it is scary, but it's a terrific situation to be in. I didn't really expect it. So come a long way from the petrol queues to here.
Yes, you are now the second Sri Lankan author to win this coveted prize. But again, the entire focus or the spotlight is now on Sri Lankan literature. there has been a shortlist in the past in 1994, correct me, sir, when it was Rumesh Gunasekara in the novels of introspection, who is winning. I mean, so the country has seen several literary works of that nature. And what does this award actually mean for the youth of the country who have seen that turmoil, and that phase of turmoil and chaos is not ending?
So, we've had so when I started thinking about writing, I guess, as a young man in the early 90s, Michael Ondaatje, his book Running the Family was the first book where I read and I saw my neighborhood and the people I knew in it. And he won for the English Patient in, I think, 1991. And then Rumesh Gunasekara, as you pointed out, for Reef. And then last year we had Anup Pragasam shortlisted for A Passage North. And so we've had this, and I think since Ondaatje won the Booker, he set up a thing called the Gratian Prize, which awards for the best fiction in the English language for that year. And that has encouraged a lot of writing. And look, Sri Lanka has plenty of stories to tell. If you go this year, there's enough novels and movies to be made. But I mean, you go back in our history. I just went back as far as 1989. But there have been so many incidents to write about, or maybe not write about those incidents. There's so many aspects of this country that you can write about. So there has been a surge of writing in English and in Sinhala and Tamil as well. I'd like to see more sort of translated work so we have a unified Sri Lankan literature. But for me, I mean, look, we have so Anuk, who I mentioned, and there's Naomi Munavira, who's writing who's US based. But they write very, very clever and beautiful literary novels. But then on the other hand, we also have local writers who kind of write more in my tradition of sort of humor. There's Ashok Ferry and my friend Andrew Fidel Fernando, who's the great cricket writer. So we have that spectrum. But I think I'm most excited by there's some young writers who, like Yudhanjay Vijayaratna, who's a science fiction writer who has been nominated for Hugo or Nebula, and Amanda Jayatissa, who writes thrillers, who has a bestseller in the States. And so you have very varied traditions, from the literary to the genre fiction to kind of homegrown humor and so much in theater. So I hope that this will encourage more Sri Lankans to write in all their languages, but it'll also encourage publishers and translators to take an interest in this island, because let's face it, we have, if nothing else, we've had plenty of dramatic and absurd stories coming out of Sri Lanka. So I think maybe Seven Moons will whet the world's appetite to read them.
You've spoken about self-censorship. That's what you did with your own story. How does the political climate of Sri Lanka affect the works of authors such as you?
So for me, like I said, I am used to self-censoring, because we have lived in times where if you say the wrong thing, you write the wrong thing, you could land in trouble. Now we're in a time where people feel emboldened to say anything. So self-censored in a sense with Seven Moons. Look, Seven Moons was writing about history, about 89, pretty well documented facts, and also the main actors, the main villains are all dead. Many assassinated. But so I was writing a sort of magic realist fantasy thriller genre piece. So but I kept true to the historical facts. I wasn't afraid there. But I've been working on some short stories, a collection, and yes, I do look at each story and think, could this offend some religious group, or could this offend some political group, and will this land me in trouble? And like I say, I'm not an activist, I'm not a hero. I have a young family, and these are just short stories. So we talk about freedom of speech, but it's not something I've taken for granted, and I'm very careful about what I publish and what I say in interviews and things like that. I will engage politically, but you have to be cautious in this part of the world.
Okay, my last question to you. Given the kind of political transition that you yourself have witnessed, are you an optimist today about your country, optimistic about things looking bright? Or are you one of those who feels that the worst is still not over?
Well, I've lived too long, Maria, in this country, and I've seen so many false dawns of hope. 1994, we thought, okay, we elected a new president, a new government. We thought, okay, now things are going to change. So many expat Sri Lankans came back, and then we've had, after 2009, the end of the war, we thought things are going to get, now the country will prosper. And so we've seen this many times. When 2015, when the Rajapaksa were voted out, we thought, okay, now it's a new beginning. So I've seen, and also I know history, and revolutions don't, the French Revolution gave way to Napoleon, the Arab Spring to the Muslim Brotherhood. And so we know that. So that when I look at that, being optimistic is tough. But I also see that there is a young generation of activists, leaders, thinkers who are not held back by these prejudices, these divisions that we have inherited. Even my generation has replicated. And I do see that idealism, then that was what was beautiful to me about the Aragalia. And also I see the character of the Sri Lankan people. It's still, with all this hardship, it's not a grim place. We still believe that we are resilient. And this is a metaphor from cricket. We lost our first game to Namibia in the T20 qualifiers, but still now we're there. And now people believe we can take the cup. So there is that optimism there. I mean, I'd like to be, but I've lived too long. So I don't know if I'd bet on it. But look, you have to hold on to hope, and, for your children and your country. So let's say I'm optimistic, but I wouldn't put money on it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Shehan Karunatilaka there, author and winner of Booker Prize 2022. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. That's all from me. Wishing all the viewers a very happy Diwali.